Welcome to Voices of Privacy. Today, our guest is Dale Pike, Associate Vice Provost of Technology Enhanced Learning at Virginia Tech, who will be discussing the platform Zoom and the aspect of privacy with the recent addition of AI and implications.
Good morning, Dale.
Good morning. It's good to be with you.
Thank you for joining us. A couple of weeks ago, I think your office sent to all of us at Virginia Tech a request for feedback on whether or not the university should be using artificial intelligence or AI features for Zoom, which were announced a couple months back. What are some of these features and why is your office asking for feedback?
Sure. So in addition to the regular features that Zoom offers for collaboration during online meetings, they've begun to use artificial intelligence to add some capabilities. They've clustered these all together under a term they're calling the AI companion, but it really is a set of different types of functionality. For example, one of the things that they'll do is offer summaries of meetings. And if you join a meeting late, you're able to click and catch up to what's been said so far. You can ask questions during the meeting about the contents that have been discussed already, and it will give you an answer about whether you've been mentioned or whether a particular term has been mentioned during the meeting. Before the meetings, you can use the AI to provide feedback on your presentation, and it'll give you insights and feedback. It does translation, offers translation to your chat content, and also summaries can be translated to different languages. And so there are a number of aspects that are intended to make the experience of using Zoom more beneficial and to kind of get rid of some of the wrinkles that tend to happen in online meetings. The first is that in general, AI is emerging so quickly right now, and there are really valid concerns about the implications of these tools. And that sort of combined with a lack of familiarity by most users creates a potential conflict in terms of people trusting the system. And the second reason is that has to do with the particular circumstances of the Zoom AI rollout. Just previous to them announcing the AI services, there was a bit of a kerfuffle where their terms of service that are made available, their general terms of service were found to be very liberally defined in terms of what kinds of use of data they were allowing the company to do. And that caused a bit of an uproar, I think appropriately speaking. It's important to note that the terms of service that Virginia Tech's use is governed by those are negotiated separately, and we were never at risk to those more broad interpretations of the usage of data. We have more tightly defined contracts that govern the use of our data at Virginia Tech. But even in general, Zoom has come out and assured everyone that the data that is used with their AI tools will not be used to train their models and will not be sold to third parties. There are a number of assurances that they've made about that data. So, but given the uncertainty, we decided it was important to get some feedback and model the kind of discussion that I think is going to be important for Virginia Tech as these technologies become more prominent.
Somewhat of the unknown, right? AI and machine learning, and every single day it gets stronger and more powerful. So, but consumers and people need easy access and tools that help them, but to what degree? And I think it's really important that you noted where Virginia Tech draws the line versus, others and what we've done to make sure everything is as compliant as possible. Because I think most people are either they're very aware, such as us, and focus on the subjects, or they have a very, very just general knowledge of it and will use it. But then if something happens, they'll go back. So I think the educational model, including everyone to build the community, is really, really critical in this time. And, I think we talked about a quote where one expert said it's the same thing as asking permission to record whenever we do, such as this interview right now. And 90% of the time, it's not an issue, but sometimes it is. And then you respect their wishes. So, how you feel about that statement, and based on where we're going, it sounds like, Virginia Tech is taking those same steps in terms of it's probably not an issue, but let's talk about it and let's frame this platform around that.
Yeah, using AI, especially in an online environment, introduces some interesting, complicated variables into our technology use. When we're interacting with other people, the AI is not just referring to our activity, but anyone who's joined us. And so I feel confident that the technology is safe and secure, but not everyone's going to feel that same degree of confidence. First of all, what we've done is when these features are enabled, they'll be toggled to an off setting by default so that there won't be anyone who's surprised by the technology, and you'll actually have to go into your preferences to turn them on if you're interested in exploring them. And then in addition, when the AI features are enabled by someone and they're hosting a meeting and they turn those features on, there will be a notice that pops up and notifies all participants that AI has been enabled. And if they felt strongly, they could object and ask the person to not use those features. Or I guess in extreme cases, they could choose not to participate in the meeting. But I think that transparency is important. I think in general, transparency is going to be a critical component of our responsible use of AI technologies. And ideally, you would know anytime that an algorithm's involved in deciding your fate or using your data. Now, AI is already pervasive in our ways, in a lot of ways that we don't really even see.
Really appreciate that, Dale, because we talk often about transparency. It's about choices. But you can't make the choices if you don't know they exist. And so by turning that by default to it's not enabled, you're giving people the choice. I'm going to ask a quick question, and it's okay if you don't actually know the answer to this. One concern that people might have is where the data is. So all of these data that are being analyzed to be able to allow the AI to, give you information about the meeting and so on. Where are these data? And like, can people go back and say, I want to erase this? Do I have any kind of control over the data after the meeting, for example?
It varies depending on what kinds of interactions we're talking about. Specifically with Zoom, the metadata, the information about our interactions that's driving the AI is used to process the AI, but is not stored. It's not stored locally and it's not stored remotely. So in terms of just that usage data that's going to inform the artificial intelligence activities, there is not a repository anywhere that could be accessed by anyone. That being said, there are a lot of uncertainties about the implications if you're using other AI tools and whether the data is going to be used to train the systems. And the reason that has implications is when you're putting content in, especially when you're using a tool like ChatGPT, and you are putting prompts into that system, a lot of times you may be uploading a document or you may be discussing personnel. Let's say first, if you're using sensitive information and if you're using an open version of the tool, then they are collecting that information to train the next iteration of their AI model. And that collection is susceptible to the same kind of risks as any online digital collection of information. And so if they were hacked in some way and they're saving that information for training, it's accessible through that kind of a risk. Then it's also, if it's used for training, it becomes a part of the model. And while it's not intended to do so, there has been some evidence that there are times when the training data is exposed on the other end. And so those are risks we're not used to calculating. And so I think it's critical that we are careful about what we put into these systems.
We all really appreciate that. So last question then, given all this, do you have any recommendations for users who kind of want to have the best privacy protections and still want to take advantage of the features of not just Zoom, but technologies that the university offers in general?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. In a general sense, I think it's important that people begin to learn what's happening behind the scenes. How is data being used when you're interacting with an AI system? A lot of times people who are the most concerned, they're at two ends of the spectrum. They either know the most about the technology and they're aware of the exact risks, or they tend to know the least about the technology and it's sort of a big boogeyman, and they don't know what to worry about. So my advice is that we need to develop some critical AI literacy, and that includes a technical understanding at a very basic level of what's happening so that you can judge when you feel comfortable using that system or not.
Absolutely agree. And I think just digital literacy, what you're doing online, I mean, that's so much of what we do at Voices of Privacy. So we want to thank you for joining us. We really appreciate the opportunity to discuss with you the new Zoom and features and how Virginia Tech is ensuring privacy for all of us. And of course, thanks to all of our listeners. And remember, you cannot change what you have shared online, but you do have power to change your online future.